We are live. Hello, everybody. This is Mike Miazga with the American Supply Association. I'd like to welcome you to another one of our town hall interview sessions. We're focusing this time on the industrial PVF side of our industry. Over the past couple of months, we've had these interviews to give our members a boots on the ground, real-time feel of how ASA members are dealing with the various intricacies that have gone into operating a business during the pandemic. I'm joined today by an esteemed panel of PVF experts. Bill Zielinski is with us today from Chicago Tube and Iron. Nice to see you, Bill.
Good being here, Mike.
Mike Abling out in California, Consumers Pipe and Supply. Nice to see you.
All right, glad to be here.
And Kip Miller, no stranger to this format. Eastern Industrial Supplies. Always nice to see you, Kip.
Mike, thanks for having me, but for the record, I certainly don't feel like an expert in the PVF business.
Just pretend to be one on this interview.
Gotcha.
All right. Past couple of times we've kind of focused more when we started this series more on the what you're doing in the here and now, you know, how you're dealing with the pandemic. Now we're going to start to kind of turn the corner a little bit, talk about more recovery. What I want to know off the bat, we'll start with you, Bill, is shifts in business recently. Take us back a month, a couple of weeks ago. What's been the biggest change for you guys?
Well, we're starting to see some more activity, which is a good thing. The unfortunate thing is it's not been consistent. We'll have 2-3 days of decent activity and then it'll quiet down a little bit. It's still a matter of there's a lot of people that have not returned fully and their business levels haven't returned, but there's encouraging signs out there. And if it continues at this level, hopefully in another 60 days or so, we'll be getting closer and closer to normal.
What are you seeing, Kip?
Well, I would concur with what Bill had to say. Going back a month, May was 15% off from where we were in April. Of course, we only had 20 billing days in May, so that was a factor. But so far, June is off to a good steady start, and where sales are up over May, and they're up over last June. So it appears like June is going to be okay, and that's as far as I'm predicting.
What do you see, Mike, in California?
Oh, we've been pretty stable all along. We did take a little bit of a hit right in the beginning, but there's been a lot of business to keep up with the COVID virus at the hospital and the healthcare level. So that's been a good little boost for us. So we're doing okay in that area. Things are moving along okay.
Kind of following up on that, Mike, what are your customers telling you? What are you seeing from folks you deal with on a daily basis? Pain points? Is their business improving?
Their business is improving. They're bringing more people back. We've done the same, is try and bring everybody back in the office. So we're doing okay with that. There might be a little bit of a slowdown, but just pushing things out and not so much, having them done as quickly as possible. A little bit of a drag.
How about you, Bill?
Yeah, for the most part, the customer activity, it all is starting to go better. The issue that's happening though is you've got some projects that have slowed down to a crawl. And with those projects slowing down to a crawl, that means there's less activity overall. So, we have to get those back up and running, and when those do, we'll be more consistent.
I would say for us in our markets, those projects, new projects, have remained steady and have remained strong. What has been slower is manufacturing. Obviously, some of the manufacturers are having difficulty getting workers to come back to work because they're getting that $600 stipend. So that's holding back manufacturing, and I don't really see a lot that manufacturers can do about it except to wait out that time. And so we have a lot of automotive in South Carolina. They were closed for 3 or 4 weeks. Now they're back open, and all of their suppliers are back open. So things are coming back, but it's It's a steady pace, I would say. I don't think it's something that's V-shaped at all.
Now, Kip, we talked a little bit offline here before we started. Interesting topic of having your staff back in the office, back at the branches. Where do you stand on that right now? Are you fully 100% back in the office, or how are you managing that?
We are not 100% back in the office. I'm trying to be really flexible and trying to be understanding through this time with our people. The at-risk folks, of course, they are set up at home and are working. And we have some younger people who are working 3 days a week in the office, 2 days a week out of the office. And so we probably have probably less than 10% of our workforce working remotely. We reopened our offices to our associates on June the 1st, and they've just been very flexible, have come back to work, and they're enjoying it. So, you know, one thing that we've talked about here is a new normal, you know, maybe changing our job descriptions for those people that are working from home, where there's certain metrics and criteria of things that they should be accomplishing on a daily basis, and we can benchmark those things. It's just something we need to work our way through, and it sounds like establishing criteria that's quantifiable would be a way to go.
Yeah, we also started coming back on June 1st, and we probably have a handful of people that are working from home. They're kind of at a high risk level. They either have it's basically a medical condition while they're not here. I have to say the entire organization, everybody kind of pitched in, did well. When we sent them all home, you know, they kept the efforts up, kept activity flowing through. And when they transitioned back to the office, you know, people were initially a little skittish, but the reality of it is each day, everything is going better. We do temperature checks every day for all employees. We also have questionnaires as to if you've been in contact with anyone. We do keep the social distancing, but for us, it's really important for our people to be close enough to be able to talk and communicate with each other, because that's just the nature of our company. We do a lot of communication internally, and we think that's really of the utmost importance.
At Friday, March 15th, when we all got the word that this was coming down and we were going into a lockdown, we went right into it. We took all of our senior members and sent them home. Everybody else that we could send home, we did. But since then, we've been riding the roller coaster, and there were like 5 of us left in the office during the 2 months that we were pretty much locked down. And then we slowly started bringing everybody back into the office. So we're still down a couple. We've got some hot spots. The Los Angeles County is still kind of a hot spot, so there's not many people left in that office. But most everybody else is back at work and doing fine. But we're very cautious also about the vendors, who's coming in. They want to make sure we keep this as clean as they would keep their homes, and make sure that nobody is exposed to anything out there. So we're still kind of being very vigilant on all of those kinds of things. But hopefully after 4th of July weekend, we can start to open things up a little bit more for everybody.
Now, Bill, Kip brought up an interesting point about the manufacturing concern he had. Have you experienced any delays with sourcing material, getting material from vendors? ASA just came out with a survey today, 3 biggest concerns of members that took the survey going forward out of the pandemic, and one of them was customers going out of business. So what are you seeing from the manufacturing side?
From manufacturing side, we have not had any issues getting material. As a matter of fact, most of the vendors that we deal with have said they have ample inventories available. You know, probably the biggest issue is it gets a little cutthroat, you know, because there is a glut of material out there. So, you know, we're seeing a lot of that happening, and, you know, in some cases you have people that traditionally don't go into the same markets we serve that are now dipping their toes in there. So that makes it a little bit more challenging. But nonetheless, all the manufacturers we deal with, no issues. We've been able to get everything we need when we need it.
I would concur with that. I think that the overseas shipments are coming quicker than they had in the past, but we are seeing some people with high price material on the ground that they are trying to move that out at sometimes some ridiculous prices. But we're not seeing any holdups with anything coming in from overseas. The ports are probably only 25% full, and there's lots of capacity there to handle more.
Yeah, and I would just say for us, there's just been a marginal impact on having material. There's a few products which have extended lead times, but there's a lot of availability in inventory on the ground in the U.S. to compensate for it. So we don't really source products from China, but maybe some of our manufacturers do. And so they've had a few issues with that. But we've been in pretty good shape with our inventory and found that it's readily available if we don't have it.
Mike, have you had to pivot at all in during the pandemic, shipping, receiving, logistics, any ups and downs in that?
Well, there were so many unknowns right at the beginning. We didn't know, what to do. So we kind of did everything. Sanitized UPS boxes coming in with chlorine spray to try and do something there. Don't know if that was necessary or not, but we didn't catch anything. So maybe it was worthwhile. Drivers going out, that's always been a challenge that they've got their PPE with them. We did put in we used further a system that we had called Innovo that would alert customers that we were just about there to make a delivery. So that kind of left to a no-touch thing. We could just leave it and go. So those kinds of technology things have kind of helped. But, that was it. At the beginning, we just didn't have any kind of feel as to what we were supposed to be doing. We were just kind of faltering. So we made it through, and it's like everything has been okay.
Yep.
Well, before COVID, this talks about what changes have we made. Before COVID, we had begun to roll out to all of our locations RF picking and receiving. And so it just gave us, COVID kind of gave us a little bit more time to do training and move toward being fully operational, since it was a new tool in a lot of our locations. Hopefully it'll improve customer satisfactions and less shipping mistakes. We also had ventured prior into a quality program. So we've been spending a lot of time the last 3 months writing SOPs for operational function that will also make us more efficient. So we hadn't seen a lot of changes in our receivables yet. We do see more customers asking for extended payment terms. So that's kind of where we are with that. And our counter sales really they've been somewhat negatively impacted. Curbside service is the way that things are still being done, although we do allow people to come into the counters. But we've seen an uptick in our job site deliveries.
Yeah, as far as transportation logistics for us, when March things hit hard, we cut back. We're very cost conscious at Chicago Tube and Iron, and we try to maintain our costs consistent with whatever is happening business level. So when business dropped down, we cut our trucking down. Fewer stops, combining loads, making sure that if we were delivering to a customer 2 or 3 times a week, we try to find out if we can deliver them 1 or 2, get there more frequent. And we're continuing that. We're adding on trucking delivery routes as need be. But again, business levels have not changed dramatically, which is the reason we're not at full level yet. But we are going to continue to keep a close eye on it and just make sure we take care of customers, because that's what they expect.
Now, what we've learned the last couple times doing these is during the pandemic, there's been some surprising products, categories that have kind of taken off for folks. We learned in the master distribution one a couple weeks ago that swimming pools are and equipment for swimming pools is a big deal during the pandemic. And in our most recent showroom one, it was kitchen cabinets. So now I'm asking the question, we'll start with Mike, from the PVF side, any kind of product or certain type of market that's kind of really surprised you the last couple of months?
We did have an opportunity to sell a whole bunch of masks. The Las Vegas market was really looking for masks, and we did come up with a pretty good buy. So that's something we've never sold before, is that kind of thing. But it is something that we kind of fell into. We've done very well selling those.
Yep.
Well, somewhat like that. We, if we had better hindsight's 2020, we'd have done a better job of having more PPE inventory, such as masks and sanitizers. But we did put some of those on some of our counters and on a somewhat limited basis, and it's been beneficial. But we have seen an uptick in some products like polypropylene and aluminum piping. We've had investments in that for a couple of years and people assigned to that. So it's one of those things that brings value to the customer, and it helps reduce their cost. And it's something our outside sales reps can actually go out and sell. And so that is beginning to pay off, and it's given us an opportunity to actually be with a customer during this time when we might not be able to.
Yeah, we didn't have any significant changes where any product either rose dramatically or decreased based upon what the situation is. It's pretty much been consistent throughout.
Employees, obviously, during this time, the folks that work in your companies, probably need to have a tip of the cap to them for what they've been able to do. Kip, how important have your staff members, employees been, and during what's obviously extremely challenging, uncertain, and dare to say frightening times?
Yeah, I think all of us in this business would admit that we're only as good as our people. Our people have just been terrific. They have been flexible from the very beginning of the outbreak until today. There've been nearly no questions asked. They've cooperated fully. So we've continued, we returned to the office for most part, and we just appreciate our people. One focus that we normally have is to take good care of them, but we really ramped up showing care for our people. We believe if we take great care of them, especially during this time, that they're going to go the extra mile for the company and the customer. So we've tried to heighten their care experience through this pandemic.
Yeah, we're real proud of our people. Our people have stepped up to the plate. They've done everything we've asked them to do. They've worked hard. And it's an unusual situation. None of us have gone through this massive go home and work from home. And then all of a sudden, okay, come on back and let's make this all happen. And we're in the midst of a ERP change right now. So the involvement of all of our team members is of the utmost importance. And I am nothing but proud of each and every one of them. They've done such a great job and continue each and every day.
This group has been a great bunch to be associated with. They stepped up right from the beginning. Those that were asked to go home really didn't know what they were getting themselves into. They worked with the equipment that they were given because we didn't know at the time, telephones. We did buy a bunch of printers, faxers, scanners, that kind of thing for them to operate from home. But it was always cautious too. So the ones that stayed here, we were in the trenches every day. And then once we started to ask people to come back, I always got their approval first and said, you guys mind if we bring so-and-so back? You mind if we bring another one back this week? And just kind of do a few every week and not just a big mass entrance of a bunch of new, because everybody was protective and cautious of their space. So I'm very proud of them for all of the things that we did.
Bill, kind of a two-part question. We'll talk leadership here for a second. Biggest challenges during the pandemic as a leader, and what have you learned coming out of this as a leader?
Well, the biggest challenge is every day is different. When we started off, we didn't know what was going to come. Business dropped like a rock, and we had to manage our resources to kind of stay consistent with that. You know, we have a goal that, you know, even when business conditions are bad, we want to make money each and every month, and that's a key element. And we want to make sure we continue with that mentality. And our people have stepped up to the plate. But every day is so different. There's new things happening. You had different states which all had different openings, and we had customers that one day they're going to be operating, and all of a sudden they're shut down for 2 weeks. So it was a constant change in trying to balance everything. You know, as far as what we've learned that you have to be flexible. You have to maintain solid inventories at a level that is consistent and allows you to make money. You can't be over inventoried because of the fact that, you know, you could have inventory either high or low price out of whack with the marketplace. And I think jobs are going to change. That's the other big factor. You know, the situation where virtually no vendors we're not allowing vendors in our facility yet, and our customers aren't allowing. At some point, they are going to allow that. That means every outside sales position, they're probably going to have an appointment everywhere you go. You're not going to be able to just go in and stop in and call on people. So I think that's going to change dramatically. And the whole sales effort, you know, we're still weeding it out and see how it's going. You have to be more technological. We've done similar Zoom calls with customers, and it's been effective. So I think it's going to be a combination of personal visits, because personal visits is really, we're a relationship business. You have to have those, but you have to basically spice it up a little bit with some Zoom calls. And it's also going to be a situation where you have to really rank your customers, you know, your A, B, C. You know, you want to make sure you're seeing the people you need to see, the ones that are bringing in the dollars that are supporting the business. And we don't want to be wasting time in areas that are smaller that aren't necessary. So that's kind of where the changes I see are.
Mike?
Well, I think like, you know, what Bill was saying there, it's a lot of the unknown, is we didn't know what we were getting into. And the false information that we were given from all kinds of news sources and everything else that you want to read, from your local newspapers to everything that you see on TV. So trying to wade through all of those and still keep a business running was a very challenging thing. So we did well. We found it a good time to work on our balance sheet and to take care of a lot of the issues that might have been out there that we didn't have time to get to. And so that helped out. And then just working with customers and who wants to see us, who needs to see us, and then what kind of things can we put off and wait on. Ranking of customers and the availability of that sales force as to what they feel comfortable doing out there in the marketplace. It's a tough thing to ask them to go into a customer location or maybe even a hospital location that could potentially infect them, so, and their families and everything else. So we had to be sensitive to all of those kinds of things as to how they felt about going in. So we weathered the storm so far. Doing well.
For us, I think, for me, I'll just confess two challenges. I guess going into COVID, once I realized the position we were in and the concern of people, our people, we would have a 10 a.m. every day call, Zoom call with our COVID team, and I'd try to digest that, and then I would try to write an encouraging script that I could video and then record my own video, because nobody was here in the office with my phone. And then my assistant would send it to all of our people. So in the beginning, it was more about the business conditions, and you only talk about that so much. So it really transitioned more of trying to figure out things and to say to encourage people. But what I'm finding out even right now is that people are still looking for a rallying cry, something that they can grab onto as hope. And then the other thing has been a challenge is from a leadership standpoint, just remaining steady and positive through all this for our people. But I'll say leaders have emotions too. And talking with other leaders over 2 or 3 week period, they shared with me words like they're agitated, they're angry, they're anxious, they're frustrated, they're just tired of all this the past few months. So I think we have to deal with our own emotions if we want to remain to stand strong of our teams. If we don't, there's a chance we'll have a meltdown. So for me, at least, it's been important for me to share my feelings and emotions with my inner circle. And sometimes when you do that, you can find some common ground, which is an encouragement.
Mike, if you had a crystal ball, it's what's it look like 2 months down the road and through the end of 2020?
Oh boy, I hope we're playing baseball and football's getting started and the world is back to normal again, but I'm not so sure. We just don't know. There's too many unknowns out there as to where we're going. So I think it's going to be important that we err on the side of caution whenever we go forward here. And we just learn as we go every day. Business looks like it's going to be okay. Not anything great for a while, but it's going to be okay. And we have all of our employees here. Nobody was laid off, anything like that. We kept everybody in place. So let's move forward, and maybe we will start a baseball season. Wouldn't that be great?
Be wonderful. What do you think, Kip?
Well, I just say based on the past several months, I think business will remain steady, or using Mike's word, it's going to be okay. Our pipeline is decent, that orders we have booked. Now, whether those jobs will be canceled or put on hold, I couldn't tell you, but I'm really not predicting too far in the future. I think it's really a day-by-day, week-by-week thing when it comes to what kind of sales and gross profit that we post. So we continue to try to watch expense and control what we can control, and then be ready to react in the case we need to. But I see things as being steady.
Yeah, I think Kip hit it right on the head. You have to keep your eye on your expenses. That's very important. You have to watch your day-to-day activity. What do we see? I think business will start to improve. It should continue to go upward. Nothing dramatic. I think it's every month will get a little bit better. You know, there's a wild card still in this year. There's an election coming up in November. How that plays into it, you know, remains to be seen. You know, and right now it's there's too many crazy things that are happening in the world that we need to get settled down. When we get all that stuff taken care of, people have money. You know, if you read the recent articles, you know, the people have paid down their debt. People have money in the bank, so they're going to get out there and they're going to spend. There's a pent-up demand. And that's a good thing because, you know, people like to spend money. You know, our whole economy rides on the consumer spending. 66% of it is based on consumer driven spending. So it all falls in. With people have money, they'll spend, and that's good for all of us. So we're encouraged, we're positive, we're confident that we're going to get out of this and we'll be in a better place.
Well, you gentlemen have lived up to your pre-show billing of an esteemed expert panel. Chicago Tube and Irons, Bill Zielinski, Eastern Industrial Supplies, Kip Miller, and Consumers Pipe and Supplies, Mike Abeling. Thanks for taking time out of your day to join me. And for folks watching this recording next Tuesday, special ASA webinar, tax breaks for ASA members. You'll want to tune into that. Stay tuned for more details. And for all the latest ASA related news, asa.net. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Okay, thank you.